This is Red Pill Radio, and I'm Noki the One, and y'all can introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Goddess Renee Angelique.
I'm Tiffany Scales.
I'm Ebony Rose.
Cool, and we are going to talk about LGBT spirituality. So the first question I have is, when did y'all realize you had spiritual gifts? At what point, and what do y'all feel like that was?
I would say I realized it when I was about 9 or so. Like, I could feel people. Let's say my mom would date somebody, I'd be like, it's just something about them I don't like. Before I know it, they'd be gone. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, okay. If I don't like them, they disappear. So I kind of felt at that point, like, okay. And then when I start praying, like, for my siblings, and then, like, I pray in church, it just feel different.
So what would you call that spiritual gift?
Well, at the time, I don't think I have that anymore, but now I know it's discernment. Like, I can feel people and, like, see people, and then I know already how I'm going to deal with that person or what I need to pray about for that person. So.
Okay, cool. So,
well, actually, I'm in the process of taking a test that Ebony has access to tell you. So I call out all of your gifts. But for me, since I've been really young, I've had a very powerful way with words. And I would hear things, but not like hear voices. Literally, like, people can tell me, 7 random words, but I hear the pain and the dark parts, and I can talk them through the path to get to that light.
Yeah.
So, my pseudonym is the Wordmatician because literally, like, it's in me to give that.
Yeah. So when did you realize you had that gift?
I was a child. I wrote a book when I was 5.
Oh, dang.
I've always done
Wow.
something. Like, so I'm 35 now. So yeah, 30 years I've been doing it.
Wow.
I started speaking extemporaneously almost 10 years ago. And that started just from acknowledging that I was in a really dark place myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got in front of a microphone, it was like, oh, I could do anything.
Hey.
Like, I can heal in this process. I can heal in this process.
Yeah.
And the 2 birds, 1 stone is really effective for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. So,
Yeah, so I knew I had spiritual gifts very, very young just because of the spiritual practices that my family practices. But I didn't actually acknowledge them until probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Just because once you have certain gifts, in my spiritual practice, like if you do not handle them and acknowledge them, then your life kind of goes into turmoil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I experienced a lot in my life because of that, and also traumas in my life. And then also being a Afro-Latina here in the States, my spiritual practice is not so accepted.
Yeah.
And so I tried to become a Christian. I tried to go to church every Sunday. I tried to do these things to try to be more like the American girl, mixed girl in Houston.
Yeah.
And so now, of course, in the last 4 or 5 years, I'm acknowledging it. And what are those gifts? I mean, I feel people. I read people. I can see things that other people can't see.
Yeah.
I get nervous. When I'm super nervous, it's because I'm feeling everybody else's energy, and it's not mine.
Yeah.
And so learning to just protect myself in that and also help people through that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's what's up. So
What about you?
mine at 5, like, I could channel.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a time where my mom was like, she was really worried about a house that she wanted to buy. She's still in that house. And I was like 5 years old, and I was just sitting over in the passenger seat, and I was like, Mom, you don't have to worry about it. God said it's your house. And she was like, wow. Really, Amber? What else did God say?
Girl, give me the tea.
Yeah. And then she was like, and she was like, I went right back to being like a little kid, and I was just like, playing around, and she was just like, what the hell is this child got going on? And so, like, over time, like, whenever my dad died, I channeled him through a song, like maybe 3 days, because I didn't have a good relationship with him. So I channeled him in a rap song, and halfway through the song is a conversation from me, and the other half was from him. And I was like, okay, that was my first experience as an adult? Because, you know, once you become like a teenager or whatever, you start to be like, okay, you don't want to deal with that stuff. And then I feel like scary movies and stuff like that keeps you from wanting to access your ancestors and other spiritual realms.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like channeling was a big thing. I feel like energy, like I get super nervous. Like I don't go out that much at all because I know if the energy's not right, I'm just dead randomly in the middle.
Me
so
too.
Barely.
I'm like, oh, no, time to go. I can't do it.
I'm like, my bad, I gotta go. Like, I don't know what it is, but I got to, like, I can't stay in a place. And, like, in here, I feel like I've experienced where, like, bad energies they can't cross the door.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, they can't stay because they feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's one of my gifts.
That's the most powerful though, right? Like instead of being influenced by all of the disarray, you come in and you set the tone.
Exactly.
And make them come to the same level.
Yeah.
Like, that helps everybody. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that.
Exactly. So I got another question, kind of piggybacking, like how, like what tradition, like spiritual traditions did y'all grow up with from family? And we can go this way this time.
Okay. So I'm Cuban, and we practice something called Santeria. It comes from Yoruba, and it's like a merge between Ifa Yoruba with saints, which is from the Catholic religion, and Ifa, which is an African spiritual practice. Mm-hmm. And during slavery in Cuba, we had to like hide our deities. I didn't know they were deities until like a couple of years ago. I always knew of them as orishas, but they're deities. You put them behind whatever. So that's what I practiced all the way up until probably 11 or so. My dad was incarcerated and he became Christian, and it was just kind of like this really weird change.
Yeah.
And then of course I went into that whole thing, and that was the biggest spiritual struggle that I've gone through in my whole entire life. I can still go to church. Like I still have to go to church for certain things because my grandfather on my dad's side was Catholic. So I still, so it's very eclectic, I would have to say, because I have ancestors that they were, Catholic or, whatever. So it's very eclectic, but the baseline is Santeria.
So what is that? What do y'all do? Like, why was it such a shock to transfer to Christian after being in?
Because it's very different. We don't believe in hell. We don't believe in heaven.
Yeah.
We're very self-actualization type of spirituality.
Yeah.
We don't blame the devil.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up.
And we don't. Hope is a nice, beautiful word sometimes, but for us, it's more like we can do the work to heal from whatever it is that we're going through, like alcoholism or any type of sickness.
Yeah.
You have different avenues. It's very action.
Very much how to.
Yes.
Like a lot of the rituals of the African Ifa, they base everything on where is the element, and all the things that you're doing is to focus that on that particular element while someone else is focusing on the head and the tail.
Yeah. So it's works.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not all right in the right, and it's not always like in your house. Like I'll never forget, like one of my brothers, he looked at me and he's like, "You need to go talk to somebody outside of your family about your problems." Oh. And I was like, really? Like right now you have to do that in front of everybody, and it's like he's telling me to go to therapy. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of other from my experience, that's not incorporated. Like, a lot of mental illness and stuff like that, they really talk about that. They really tell you stuff that you don't want to hear. A lot of stuff that you don't want to hear.
Yeah. That's what's
keep you accountable.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So as far as upbringing, I wasn't raised in the church. My mom worked on weekends. She was in the military, single parent. So the closest thing, and not to take away from the fact that we did pray. I mean, I remember talking to God like this was a conversation, but the things that I remember her doing was making a cross when we heard sirens. Sadly, that's been like a transition, because now when I do it, it's for a whole deeper meaning. Yeah. But I remember we would pull over to the right if we heard sirens and make a cross and just pray for whatever was going on to get through that. And that I have grown into my religion, my practice, my faith. My mother came in late. And so the conversations that we have nowadays is more like I come into, my stepdad had a surgery a couple weeks ago. And I got in the waiting room. And it wasn't even like a moment to hug. It was, hey, go talk to her. You know, and so my mom's praying for some stranger in the waiting room and got me talking to some lady that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, I don't even know if she'll be receptive to me. But my mom, she knows. And now she knows. And so like the flow is so much smoother than it was when I was a kid.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So, how was it Christian?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So for me, love is the religion I practice.
Okay.
And the act of it is, you know, we say Christian to be Christ-like, but Christians around here don't act like him.
Yeah.
And so I practice, you know, love because love, well, the religion is a practice and it's what you do all the time. And if I'm able to maximize every orifice of myself to love in a capacity that's unmatched, then I'm more like him than they are.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot easier that way. But I don't get into the semantics of, you know, what came first or arguments that are controversial. I don't question him.
Yeah.
So that's my process.
All right.
So for me, I grew up in church, but it was after like a traumatic experience. So like my mom, it was a drive-by on our house. My mom got shot, but everybody else survived. It was like 17 gunshots. Nobody woke up. Everyone stayed asleep. And when I found my mom, when she was walking down the street saying, "Thank you, Jesus." And from that point, we went to church every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's what it felt like. We was in church all the time, choir rehearsal. We were Baptists at first, but then my church switched to a non-denominational. And so, like, I'm not really into, like, as you said, like the semantics, the rules and stuff, but the root and the principle of it. And it's like how you said, love is the religion you practice. God is love. You know what I'm saying? So, as Christians are supposed to demonstrate God's love, like, but a lot of people are lost, you know. And so, but however, that's how I grew up, going to church, hearing the tambourine, seeing praise dancers. Lord. Man, Holy Ghost be tearing the church up, okay? So, but also other things like, you know, anointed oil, like I have some in my pocket.
Oh, dang, you ready.
So I anoint myself all day, every day, right? And this is to keep my mind, my heart, my soul, my ears, my hands, and my ears open to God, you know, and closed to anything else. And it's kind of like, I promise y'all, like this, for me at least, I'm into Harry Potter too. And it's this thing called Felix, and it's like lucky, like you'll be your luckiest, like when you drink it. So for me, it's kind of like that. Like I feel like untouchable, like, and everything has been so much favor on my life since I've been doing it consistently. It's like I know it works. Like I do.
Cool. So I grew up super Christian.
Super Christian. What's that? Do y'all wake up? Y'all got superhero.
I mean, I would say it's like super Christian, but my mom had us in church every Sunday for sure. Always gospel music all Sunday. Me and my sister used to had to wear dresses. Like she had to drag me every single Sunday, and like it was just Christian music the whole day. And it was a non-denominational church, but they were very like close to Baptist. And my whole family is super religious from New Orleans. I think some of my family practice voodoo or whatever. I mean, I don't know, some spirituality in New Orleans, but nobody talks about it. But they're super, super Christian, like next level, and have gifts and things like that, discernment and like manifestation powers and stuff. So it was very interesting, and I want to transition to like how has the spirituality that you grew up in with your family affected you as LGBT, and like how did they react? Like whenever you came out, if you came out, however, whatever happened, what happened? So we'll go this way this time.
Okay, so for me, as far as coming out, it was hard. But I came out, I was about 23, 24. But my mom already knew. Like, I did dress differently than I dress now, right? But I just never said it. You know, I was just living my life like, I don't really have to explain myself. But one day I was like, okay, let me tell her, because I was getting into, like, the serious relationship, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, we sitting there watching TV. I said, Mom, I want to tell you something. She was like, uh-huh. Wait a moment. I was like, well, I never really liked guys like that. She's like, uh-huh. And I was like, well, I just have a deeper affection for women or whatever.
That's what she said.
That's so nice.
Made me want to respect the whole process. Like, oh, okay, a deeper respect.
Yeah, so it was something along those lines. And she was just like, I knew that's what you was going to tell me. Said, but the devil is a lie. And that's it.
Oh, dang.
and that's it. And so that was like the end of that conversation. But it did weigh heavy on me. It was always like this, even to this day, like this constant tug of war. Like, is this right? Is this not right? I'm not really sure. Am I doing the right thing? I'm doing the wrong thing. And so then I just had to seek the truth for myself and not just what I was being told, right? Yeah. It's like, God, if you have a problem with me, you tell me. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so, man, it's been a journey. I even did 9 months of conversion therapy and all kinds of stuff. Man.
How does that work? Because I've heard some stories about conversion therapy. So,
okay, so in my case, it wasn't traumatic or nothing like that.
Like electric shock.
No, nothing like that.
It does get that bad.
Mm-hmm. It does get that bad for some, but it wasn't like that. It was more like a weekly course, and for 9 months, and we had homework at the study. Now, all the participants, this is the crazy thing, but not to discredit the course itself, because I think it did exactly what it was supposed to do, not necessarily what the instructor wanted it to do, but what it was supposed to do. So everyone who has participated in the class, still gay, but however are living a spiritual life for God, though, but still being themselves. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the class actually opened me up to my spiritual gifts, my calling. Like, I have a calling for evangelism, but I do that through my poetry. That's how I do it. Yeah. And so, I found that out in the class. I learned about fasting, how to fast, what's consecration. I really built my relationship with God from the class. So I think that's what God intended the class to do. And I feel like if you have a relationship with God, anything that's not supposed to be there will get filtered through the relationship, eventually, because just like me and you hanging out, the longer we hang out, we pick up each other's mannerisms. Yeah. The same thing, the closer your relationship with God, you become more Christ-like, so to speak, right? And so it's like it just filters, right? So lightness and darkness can't be in the same place at the same time. So I'm like, okay, all right, after years, I'm still gay. So, okay, I still, still would see somebody, and anytime I'd be like, okay, I think I'm good. Then I see a woman and be like, nah, I'm gay. No, I'm gay. Nah, I'm gay.
I'm gay.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm gay.
We just can't shake it.
We're going to close that. That's funny. Mm-hmm. Dang. So how does it work with family?
So for me, I was outed by my basketball coach my freshman year.
What?
College. Yeah. I didn't date anybody in high school. I didn't partake in anything until, I was a sophomore. But that transition, I guess my summertime before my sophomore year, no, I lied. My bad. It was my freshman year. So I have a friend from high school that helped me move, and she's a stud, and so she carried all the heavy stuff. And so we parked on the yard, and she's walking my stuff up the stairs, and my suite mate is my teammate, and her parents are there, and they're super religious. Yeah. Insanely intimidating and uncomfortable religious.
Mm-hmm. And I know them type.
Yeah, the breath stopped flowing, Yeah. But they had this ballistic conniption from seeing this, androgynous woman walk herself into my room, and basically told the coach that wasn't going to be allowed. They didn't have their daughter. I mean, she was a star shooter. Wow. They would not let her stay at the school if she was going to be around those kinds of influences. I played on a basketball team of the prissiest girls who at halftime were recurling their hair and applying lipstick in real life.
How?
I'm used to being on undefeated teams. My freshman year, we might have won 7 games. I was ashamed.
Wow. You have to have at least.
You were ashamed because you wanted to win?
No.
You gotta have at least one stud on the basketball team. That's disrespectful.
Like, oh my God, I played in the SWAC, okay? So, like, all the girls in Mississippi Valley and Grambling State had hair under their arms, like little baby afros.
Oh my God.
And it was just like, like,
two.
man, nah, like, they were all.
Oh, Lord, Jesus.
They were all. But, like, even me playing ball, like, my dad wasn't comfortable with me playing basketball for college. And had his sister talk to me about how, you know, I was going like don't get got pretty much, which I didn't even understand.
What did she say? How do you tell someone how not to get got?
She said you reconsider playing basketball because you know you're gonna get got. Like
that's all she said.
Yeah.
Okay. I've had that conversation before.
I've heard that
Yeah.
of people not even letting their girls play basketball because they're scared of the potential of their daughters being gay.
I understand because it's kind of like people don't want to put their boys in dancing and tap dancing and stuff because they think,
but it don't rub off.
It don't.
You see people dance like, man.
Yeah,
it's
just.
Oh, I
happen like
won't
that,
get
but-
started on that.
Yeah.
But I think I lost the question initially.
So how did your family, like, whenever your family found out?
As far as religion goes, so my mom wasn't really in church when she found out. Like her faith came when she started seeing her now husband.
Yeah.
But her only response initially was, "But I want to have grandkids," and I said, "But I got science."
Yeah.
And I think just the transition of her learning more, being around more, being exposed to more things, and realizing we are human and we love just as freely. We don't have a problem. Like she's not even like that fake nice in front of people that you know, people of interest or people that matter to me. Like she doesn't have a tone of insincerity. Like she truly loves as I do. And I love it.
That's what's up. Cool.
All right. So, when I came out, pretty much everybody was like cool with it because we don't. In my spirituality, like we actually believe that gay men are more spiritual because they have more clairvoyant energy. Like a lot of stuff has to do with energy. We also do like when a spirit mounts you and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, the LGBT community were more susceptible to it. Channeling, we're more susceptible to it. So it's not anything where it's an issue. Granted, my dad was institutionalized.
Oh, yeah.
And by the time I came out, he was very much so Christian. I mean, when he came out, it was like, what? Like, I had to learn a lot because I didn't know. Like, we were not exposed, but he was just Christian and he did not want to hear anything about it. He said he was going to take my last name away from me, but like my stepmom, everybody else was like,
what?
Like, where are you getting this
yeah,
from?
like it was just like, okay, Dad, you'll be okay. And my family was just so supportive that it was just like, you know, Dad, I love you. You just you're just gonna have to catch up, like get your life right, and then we could, you know, like it was, you know. But outside of that, you know, of course, there's humans are humans, and there's gonna be somebody in your house that may not agree with it. But it's more like they might not feel like that person is right for you. They might necessarily say that man or that woman. They might say more of like, you know, that's not, or y'all's energy is just not really there. You have a little bit more feminine energy. They might have too much masculine.
Yeah.
You have too much masculine energy for that person and things like that. But it's never like, no, this gay stuff, no.
Yeah.
No, it's very much so embraced.
Wow.
That's lovely, though.
It's very much so embraced.
I wish. Like, that would be a lot.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm just listening, like, my family's like, it's nice.
No.
Yeah, it's very much so embraced.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I've like, there's a book called, I think I told you about the Spirit of Intimacy, and it's about how like indigenous Africans feel about intimacy, relationships in general. And the last chapter is about homosexuality, and it breaks that down, where it talks about how like LGBT were considered as gatekeepers in the community, and they had access to all the spiritual gates. And so when you wanted to have like a conversation about spirituality, you're going to the gays, which is crazy because
I know that it is.
Isn't that outside?
I think it's exactly what it's supposed to be.
Right?
Yeah.
But I wonder why.
We have a different experience. We see things very, very fluid. We see things very fluid. We don't see like boxes, you know. And so I think that's what gives us our gift. Like we see right when we start having different feelings at a young age, we're already like, hold on, something's not right about this planet.
Very true.
Right?
I didn't think anything was wrong with what I was doing at 5. Like, I didn't know it all until I got caught. Like, I didn't know what the problem was.
Well, once I knew something was wrong with it, then I was like, there's something wrong with this planet. You know,
because
like,
it felt real
right?
bad with
It
me,
felt
right.
exactly. Like, I still remember asking my stepmother one day, and she was very, very. Oh my God, I love this woman. She told me. I asked her. I said, Mom. It was when I started reading like the Bible and stuff. I was like, why do people get to tell me what's right and wrong? I was like, there's this feeling inside of me that when I do something wrong, I know it's wrong. She goes, girl, you know what's right and wrong. Don't worry about that book. Don't get too caught up in it, because she wanted me to explore, because they don't, that's another thing. They do not keep you from other religions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She wanted me to explore, but she didn't want me to start getting conditioned by it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't want me to do that. So she was like, you keep that feeling and be careful with what you're reading.
Yeah.
That's what
I agree, because I think if somebody was the right thing in the wrong hands can do a lot of damage, right? But I was actually going over a sermon I wrote last night, and I kind of said something similar to that, to where you always have to have your intuition. So Jesus healed this woman on the Sabbath. The what they call them? Pharisees. You know, they just buy the book. You ain't supposed to do anything on the Sabbath. They told that lady, if you have a problem, basically they told her she need to come business hours, not on the Sabbath. But Jesus was like, he healed her on the Sabbath, and I know that's from his heart, right? And that's kind of the same thing. Like, I know what's right, I know what's wrong. Like, it's not necessarily like these rules type of deal. It's like God has already placed that GPS, that moral compass inside of you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
exactly.
I feel like Christianity, by design, not just in general, but I think the colonized Christianity, by design, has kept a lot of people from that moral compass. And just giving them a list of things to do and a list of things not to do, so you don't go to hell.
But that's why I say you gotta seek for yourself, because if you never got to that portion or never read that story in the Bible and you just listening to what somebody else is telling you, it's like you're not even putting yourself in the equation. You're not even an active participant. God wants you to be active in the relationship. You know what I mean?
I kind of disagree just a little bit, only because I wasn't raised in the church. I don't know every parable or storyline, but I know the first time I met a pastor in Houston was Marlon from the Awakenings movement. I don't know if y'all familiar, but he's dope.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine at the time had a blowout and needed to get to this meeting.
Yeah.
And so I got out of bed and drove her to the meeting. It was at this venue on Alameda by the Reggae Hut.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting at a table, twiddling my thumbs, probably texting somebody, and I keep catching them saying stuff that sounds familiar to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I wrote a poem about that. By the third time I interrupted them, he was like, well, let me read it. And literally, he's coming from scripture. I'm showing him my emails. Like, I was not raised in the church, but I still get access to the word. Yeah. I am the Wordmatician, But at the same time, like some conversations and some interactions are not going to hinder us. We come to that table. We are the vital parts of that flow, because we'll be the ones at the table. You know what I mean? Like the Last Supper, you got whores, liars, and thieves at it. Like, it's not that, they were more trustworthy. They were entrusted to do something more effective. Yeah. Like, if you're good enough to sit at the table with God, then you're good enough for me to respect.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's the real root Christianity, but I think there's a whole other, like, realm of Christianity that's like, what are y'all doing? Like, what y'all thinking about?
They're the ones who are thinking about and wondering stuff, right? As opposed to, like, this feels right.
Exactly. That was good. So I'm going to take a break, and then we're going to come back in a second. All right.